I feel like in some ways, I think good hair reinforced that whatever black folks are doing to their hair is wrong. What up, Beat Boppin'? Um, I don't think you're that late. We're just talking, you know. Ooh, bitch, I'm about to get my fucking Talenti. BRB. I'm gonna need some ice cream. Actually, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna keep talking. I'll get my ice cream later, darling. But what I wanted to talk about was like fucking. Oh, what up, Rebecca? Um, but I think I don't know. I think it is true. It is true how natural hair is demonized still, because it's like, I just think there's so many layers to like anti-blackness. It's just kind of like mind-boggling, all of the arguments that are just rooted in racism and like misogynoir, which is again misogyny directed to, or actually, excuse me, racialized misogyny geared towards black women. I think that's like another point I wanted to make is like I was talking to a black man and I told him that black women and black queer folks that are not cis men struggle more so in our world, in our society. And he truly like just like would not like agree with me on that. And he was just very much like, no, like as a black man, you have no idea what I go through and da 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 da. And I'm just like, do you realize that as a black man, like you could fucking dress up like a black woman and like garner much success, but the opposite is not true. And you could, as a black man, or rather, you as a black man have privileges that black women definitely do not have. And it's so abundantly clear, because like as it's just like interesting like seeing like the back and forth sometimes too, because it's like black women will assert something or black queer folks will assert something about black cis men, and it'll be like this thing like, oh, y'all hoes are hating, or like y'all bitches stay mad. And it's like, like I think like the thing is what it really is y'all bitches have a history of fucking trauma, and y'all bitches is mad for a reason, like we don't ever like want to examine that shit. But it's true. It's true. People don't. People definitely shouldn't be concerning themselves with black hair. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Germania. It's so true. I also thought, like, I don't know. Has anyone seen that picture floating around of that black man brushing his children's hair? I think it's always interesting whenever like black folks, or rather like whenever there's like a monoracial parent who's like black, um, and they have a child who is like not visibly black, and I think it's interesting like how that plays out, but also how that black man responded, talking about helping his children with their hair, and talking about how you know how folks how folks are being racist towards him. And I think like he definitely was just like, not trying to really process like racism at the time. I think he was more so trying to process why like a black man doing something quote unquote normal is like so like villainized. And that was what was happening. Like it was like folks just being like, how like this black man, like those are probably not even his kids, like just saying things that were like extremely racist. And like folks like talk about it like it's not racist. It's true. It's true. And that's what I said when I was saying like it's as if we live in the Matrix, because very much so like I feel like Bell Hooks's terminology talking about the world being a plantation, and like the way that folks have to survive in the plantation setting, and how house niggas still exist, and how field niggas are abundant, and how people who are gatekeepers know that they're are different ways, you know, to keep folks, you know, at odds and shit. And I feel like, you know, I don't know, like it just like bugs me out because it's like, you know, you read things like you read any kind of biography or words by like Asada Shakur or Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks especially, Angela Davis. Like you read anything by these women, and you think like, why are things not changing? Like you read their like, especially as my especially myself, I read these words and I get angry because it's like, how can there be such beautiful fruit on this earth that folks will not eat? Like, how is it that like people could like explain the ways in which my life is, and it can just mean nothing but mean everything to me. So I think that that's also like very interesting. But I feel like that's especially telling of like living in like white supremacy, is like being able to have, you know, that little solace, you know, those little pockets of safer spaces. But eventually, you know, there must be a confrontation in terms of like why we must live this way, in terms of like small pockets of like safer spaces. Like um it's just like flustering because it's like, you know, all the people that I love and that I care for and all the people that I want to believe in, it's kind of like their politics are kind of bullshit. And it's kind of like, where do we go? Like, how do we tell folks like, you know, on bigger levels, like not to slut shame and not to like be fat phobic and like not to be ableist and like not to be fucking racist and to like check their privileges and like be aware of like how they move in spaces where people have less power than them, you know, because like your movements, while they may be easy for you, they crush some. So um I think like it's just like a whole like, it's like a thought process has to change within folks. And I just wonder like, how does that even work? Because like every day it seems like the media just is like so rife with like trying to tell you this backwards ass story or trying to like get you to understand the way things just are, you know. And it's sickening. I think like someone asked me, like I was trying to like lead off with this, but like someone asked me, had I been watching this shit called like Blood, Sweat, and Heels? And it's just like, who gives a fuck? Like, I'm not even trying to be hating on these like folks, but I feel like this is another one of those shows, kind of like Real Housewives of Atlanta, where they get this one wildin' ass white bitch, and then they get like mad black ladies who are like trying to struggle, trying to fucking make it, and like you just see this like basic ass, drunk ass white bitch fucking do nothing and gain all the fucking rewards of also being on the show, but also for being mediocre. And it's just like, why? You know, why are we watching this show? Like, why do we give a fuck? Like, obviously, like, I'm happy that these folks are getting a check. These other folks, you know, these other black ladies, like, they're out here making it because really, like, black folks are not meant to make it. When you see somebody black on your screen, you know, in some ways, like, in a small way, I'm like, word, shout out to you. But in other ways, I wonder, like, with all that elevation, with all that money, like, do you turn around? Do you ask, like, how can I help? And I wonder, like, what stops us? Like, what stops us from, like, saying, like, we can help, like we can do this, you know. I realize we all have like fucked up things, but it's like, is the system milking us to a point where like we don't have anything to give each other, and like that's like where we're at? I don't know. It just fucks me up sometimes, you know, thinking about the way that things work and like the way that like folks like are swayed to do things or like swayed to not do things or like swayed to believe things about certain folks or feel a way already when they meet someone or see someone, or just based on their experience, you know, just based on like where the fuck they're coming from. You see it all the time, and especially with reality TV. I think that's also what's interesting. It's like reality TV shows you like all these motherfuckers are fucking wildin'. You know, like everyone out here is wildin' in some way, but it shows me that like when people get on TV, they wild in a different way. Like even the brokest motherfucker, when they get on TV, they go in, like they lose their mind kinda, and they start doing things that they probably don't fucking really be doing, just to give a storyline. You know what I mean? Like not everyone is that fucking interesting. Not everyone has that much going on. And like you start to like probe and go into things. You start to feel like you know these fucking people. You start to have like real connections with these folks. I'm high as fuck, can y'all tell? I'm just like going in. I'm just like, bah. Wowzers. what is my opinion on what white people who actually try to be aware? There's no try. I want to make that also aware. There's no try to be aware. It's like once you start to see systems of oppression, you kind of can't turn it off. You kind of see every fucked up thing and you fucking acknowledge it. And I feel like activism is when you fucking write a piece and you say, you know what, this was some bullshit. Or you make a video and you say, this is some bullshit and why. That's fighting back. Like, I feel like that fucking protests that shit in one way or another, you know? Even if we hate a show, we can still talk about the ways in which there are themes that are unhealthy, and maybe that'll help you in your real fucking life. I know it helps me in mine. But I feel like at the same time, I think that when you start to be aware of systems of oppression, I think there is laziness in terms of like what really hurts people and what doesn't. And I feel like people are trying to like make hierarchies of shit, and it's like just like intersectionality exists, you also can't stack oppression up, you know. People have different experiences and that's fucking real, but like we have to be real about um you know, like where we're coming from, you know. And I feel like tonight I wrote a piece about, or like a really short thing about a piece I wrote something about like um a lot of people fucking stopped following my blog, you know, like because I started talking about how I was black. And I feel like in some ways folks were like folks knew that I wasn't white, but folks were doing that thing that they do to light skinned folks or ambiguously racial folks, but typically light skinned folks. And they'll be like, "Oh, where are you from? Where are you from? You're half white, aren't you? You're part white, aren't you? Oh, are you Asian?" Like they do that thing that they do to light skinned folks, where they ask them, or rather, where they strip them from their blackness automatically. And I feel like some light skinned folks play into that shit. They like it. I know some light skinned folks, including myself, have like said that we were like different things in terms of like who the fuck we were with, just to be like whatever. Like if you're gonna ask me such an asinine question, I'm gonna make it up. I think over the years I've gotten more ridiculous, and I'll be like, I'm half Pomeranian on my mom's side. You know what I mean? I'll just be making up pedigrees. You know what I mean? That I'm affiliated with. I'll be like, oh yes, child, I'm Chihuahua. You know what I mean? I let people know. But like when things like that, you know, go down, um, if you're not someone who's like actively combating this shit, you know, you're not really like doing anything. But what I was saying was, you know, people stopped following my blog because they really was like not trying to, they weren't trying to feel me, because before they would fetishize me, they would ask me what my race was, they would ask me where I was from, they would exotify me, and once they were able to figure out that I was just black, you know, they would try to tear me down in other ways. You know what I mean? I would notice like folks would be like, will come left, like they would be like, oh, like, what is she? And then they would be like, oh, you're black. Oh, that's a wig. Oh, you're wearing contacts. Oh, you hate yourself. But all of this shit to say that like what people see dictates how they fucking treat you. Folks were so excited to like be my friend when they thought I wasn't a random black bitch. But as soon as they figure out that I'm black and that I shouldn't have this hair, I shouldn't have these eyes, I shouldn't have all of this fierceness, you know what I mean? All of this drag that I've given to them, they won't accept it. They're like, no, bitch. They're like, I don't like it. And then they want to question whether or not I have a penis because I'm a trans person. Because I was born in a body that somebody said was fucking a girl's body, but I don't feel like a fucking girl. So like what the fuck do I do? Like am I supposed to fucking pretend for you that I am a girl? I'm not sure what the fuck I am. I'm never fucking sure. And that's the reality of my fucking life. And folks like think, you know, like, you know, automatically you say trans, they automatically think transsexual, and they automatically want to come for you, and it's really fucked up. Um oh, I'm sorry. Let me get into this chat though. Mm. It's true. People hate to feel like they are contributing without their awareness. And people are so quick to coddle privileged folks. They're so quick to grab their little baby head and be like, but not you, but not you, but not you. You know what I mean? But that's not true. But you too, bitch. You know what I mean? White people love to feel like they're the motherfucking token. Like, you ever get a white person in a group full of, like, POC, they love to feel like they're the good one. But it's like, no, bitch, you're not. You're just as basic as Tim, Todd, and fucking Jim. You're not different. And that's the thing that fucks me up, is, like, also, like, dating white men. Like, white men think that because they're fucking a black pussy that that's some kind of, I don't know, but it's like, it's not the case. And I've definitely had to check white partners in the past and let them know that, you know, at one point in my life, I would call white dudes who were like appropriating the fuck out of black culture white dudes with a little bit of flavor. But now I'm just like, listen up, poser. You know what I mean? You didn't grow up like this. You know what I mean? These little white boys want to listen to some Wu-Tang and then want to tell you about it. Want to talk to you about motherfucking Michael Jackson's greatest hits. I was dating this white dude. He was telling me about Michael Jackson's greatest hits for like literally our whole fucking relationship. And I'm just like, bitch, I love Michael. I love Michael Jackson. I love him. I think he's a shit. Man in the Mirror, that's my jam, okay? I like that song. PYT, bitch, I could get down. But I'm not going to be sitting here having a white person talk about Michael Jackson all motherfucking day. It's just not going to happen. And I notice that that's what white people do. Pause. Does anybody else watch motherfucking Kroll Show? He has this one bit where, like, every time he talks to a black person, he always makes sure to say, what kind of he's like, what's your favorite Will Smith movie? Like, it's like this tongue-in-cheek, subtle racism thing. Like, oh, I'm going to ask the black person about a Will Smith movie. You feel me? And then I'm just like, what the fuck? But I've had that exact experience. Like, white folks definitely didn't know what the fuck to say to me, so they just want to ask me about motherfucking popular black mainstream culture. Talking about, do you watch this show? And I'm like, no, bitch, I don't watch this show. You know what I mean? Like, or they'll be like, oh, or do you know this song? Or like, oh, definitely, I had a white dude I was trying to meet. And this was when that Trinidad James song came out, and I really hadn't heard it. Like, it was going on, and like people were quoting like "Pop the Molly, I'm sweating," but I had never heard the song in my life, and I didn't look up the fucking song. And apparently, I didn't know this to be true, but my girlfriend at the time was playing the song in the house. I never fucking heard it, but when, you know how sometimes you be having your headphones in, you know, like, I don't know, I feel like they played it for themselves, and they were trying to say that I heard it, but anyways, I went to this white boy's house, and he was playing some Trinidad James, and he was like, have you ever heard this jam? And I was like, and like, I hadn't heard of the jam, and I liked it. And then my girlfriend got mad at me and was like, bitch, I've been playing that song. And I'm like, I never even heard it. Like, I'm sorry. But like, what? But he felt so good about himself, acting like he was showing me something black. You know what I mean? He was putting on mad rap music, like dead ass. And I like looked through his music catalog, and he had a lot of different fucking genres. But I just noticed when niggas want to fucking play me some jams. But honestly, let me say this though, I dated this black dude recently, and like, he was like hella into punk music, so he would just be playing like mad ambient and transient music, and I mean, some of the shit I did jam to, but at the same time, I was just like, sometimes, because like, honestly, I don't like when people just be trying to play you music, like, honestly, like, unless I really fuck with you, unless I really like you, or I'm trying to fucking make you think that I give a fuck that I like you or some shit, I don't want to hear your fucking music. Don't be playing your music and shit in my space, bitch. Yo, Simbots, when white people find out I'm Jamaican, bitch, that's when shit is like game over. Like, I literally, like, sometimes I don't even tell folks I'm Jamaican. I just tell folks I'm black, and that's it. But at the same time, it's like part of my life growing up was like being with my father's family. They had a Jamaican restaurant. I was submersed in the culture. I was submersed in the food. I was all in the food. I was buried in the food. But when white folks find out I'm Jamaican, they just like, yo, Jamaican me kept crazy, man. Or they just want to say man all the time. Why you want to say man? Like, get the fuck out of here, yo. I remember this, yo, random story. This white bitch I used to live with went to fucking Jamaica. This is like such a random ass story too. Like, went to Jamaica for like 2 fucking weeks and like had a fucking bomb ass time. Like, stayed in a hostel that was like a fucking tree house. It's like a tree house fucking hostel that looked fucking sickening from the pictures. And this bitch fucking told me that she went to Jamaica and she was white, but she was one of those white girls that love black men, side eye. And she was saying to me, she was like, my husband's either gonna be Australian or like black, like honestly, or Puerto Rican. And I was just like, I had to chill. You feel me? Yeah, or they be saying some we be jamming shit, or they be talking about motherfucking Bob Marley like all the time. Yo, I hate white people that love Bob Marley. They're the worst. They're the fucking worst. They love to fucking sing the songs and just be acting extra for no fucking reason. And I'm just like, listen, like, I don't know, like, I don't think like I want to hear you sing fucking Bob Marley. If Bob Marley's already playing, that's fucking enough. But like, if you're gonna be singing it off key, bitch, I could just leave and you could just do this shit by yourself. But you know how folks just want you to be like watching them fucking get their fucking little shine on, but it was just not for me. But really though, like, lots of situations where, you know, people wanted to fetishize me for being Jamaican. And like, you know, there was a time like I would totally like, and I feel like this was some like light skin bullshit where like my mom is definitely like a white passing person. I remember like growing up, like people would say to me like, I saw you walking with this white lady, and I'd be like, that's my mom. And they would be like, oh. And like, my mom is black, but she's white passing. So that's her fucking real life. You know what I mean? And I feel like in some ways, I've never really had a conversation with my mom about like her light skin fuckery, but I feel like it's awkward to kind of check her. You know what I mean? I feel like I really haven't talked to her in gen in a while. So I feel like it's kind of awkward to just be popping up being like, by the way, you know, you light skin bitch. You know what I mean? But, I I remember like when I used to tell people I'm Jamaican and that I'm like Russian and sometimes I like break down my mom's whole ancestry and shit. People would be like so into it. They'd be like, so you're like Russian? They'd be like, oh, they're like, you're like a Russian Jamaican. Like, oh my God. Like they would be like so into it. But it's like, what is that? Like, what did that even do? It's like, it would like amp my like attractiveness to that person, and it's like creepy because it's like nothing about me changed. Like literally, like I'm the same person in front of you, but I noticed that shit, and I feel like I never really realized what it was until like not, I don't want to say right this moment. I feel like I'm analyzing it for the first time, but that was like definitely some like light skin bullshit. But I feel like dudes like would just be like so into it. But I feel like also like racist ass dudes, because like racist dudes don't like, they already don't see women of color as real women. They already see us in parts and pieces. So it's kind of like, I feel like when you start, I feel like in my opinion, I feel like these men would hear that I was Jamaican and Russian and, you know, Bayesian. They would hear like all these things and they would just be like pulling me apart in their head. So I feel like in some ways, um, I feel like there were times where like I was being exotified, but I was also self-exotifying, for privilege, for status, like obviously. And like it just feels like gross like now, you know, to think about it, because it's like I really don't like people trying to break down my heritage based on like my hair weave or like how I may or may not have a cat eye. You know, like I think that that's like really creepy, but I think at the same time, um you know, it's definitely something to talk about. You know, it's definitely not something to not talk about, because I feel like it happens all the time. And I feel like a lot of people shame, also I feel like a lot of people shame darker skinned folks for like talking about their mixedness, but I feel like it often gets called like anti-blackness or like self-hate, when I don't feel like that's the case. I feel like light skinned people do it for like a boost, and I feel like perhaps maybe a dark skinned person may or may not do it for a boost as well, which I don't think it's right to do. I think it just reeks of otherness, but I think that it's a real thing that happens. Um, But I think but I think also, I think in some ways, because of the diaspora, can you be mad at somebody for wanting to break down like what the fuck they are and like really like explore that? Because I think in some ways like I am kind of like very critical of mixed folks who feel the need to break down their heritage, but like seemingly have no fucking clue of what that heritage really means. And again, I'm not trying to shame folks, and I realize that that can seem very shaming in terms of like, oh, like what are you doing to acknowledge your ancestors? You know, like like what the fuck does that mean? You know, to me, like why do I need to like know that about you? But I want to say that at the same time, you know, being quote unquote just black seems like it's never going to be enough for these folks who are like so set on like claiming like their otherness. And it's really unfortunate, but it is a real thing, you know. And I think that like when I said what I said, like it made me feel mad uncomfortable, but that's real. Like that's like fucking that's like why like that's why it's important to confront privilege, because you start to realize like how things that you've done in the past just like kickstands like fucking oppression. Like obviously I didn't create the enticing fucking hungry eyes of the folks that want to hear about um the uh you know what, I think the thing is, what I'm also trying to say is, you know, people romanticize this idea of like all of these different folks from different lands fucking to like create this person who you think is like attractive. It's like this like very like creepy like faux romance novel esque idea of looking at someone's heritage. Like when someone's breaking down their heritage, I just feel like especially white folks are just like very much like you know, because like when I was breaking down my mom's like mix and my father's like heritage, people would be like, oh my god, like how did they meet? You know, people were just so interested in how my parents met, and it's like these niggas met in a bar, bitch. Booze brings them all to the yard. You know what I mean? But like, you know, again, it's like I feel like folks pop up and they're like, "Oh my god, like, what are you?" And I'm like, "I'm black." And then it's like, "Okay, but like, why are you light skinned?" You know what I mean? Or like asking me who's white in my family. Like people are just very fucking blunt with like how much they want to know how black you are, you know, and that's how they like should treat you. And I feel like once folks like I feel like a lot of the hate that I've gotten for like wearing wigs has been especially fucking misogynoir. Like because it's been like I remember like one time this person straight up said to me like without my wigs, without contacts, like I would be ugly. Like was like basically like saying like, you know, without that you wouldn't be nothing, you know, like it must be the wigs. And I'm just like, wow, you know, like it's like it happens among other black women, you know, trying to like tear down folks and try to make folks feel bad about body mods that are sometimes survival, you know. I feel like for a short time I felt like very naked without my wigs, but I feel like that had a lot to do with like my gender identity. I feel like in some ways, like my wigs, like I wanted like my drag to be real, kind of like on some Pinocchio shit. Like I wanted to be a real girl, you know, but I just didn't feel like that's what I ever was. Like, and I feel like no matter what I'm putting on, it's all play. Like it's not me. And figuring out who I am and figuring out what I want to be, or figure out who I really am at the core is like that's like an adventure for myself that like I allow folks to know about. Um, but it's especially like draining, you know, trying to constantly combat anti-black woman hatred and like completely not identify as a woman but being assumed as one and having to feel like I'm constantly like just like living like a double life, you know. It's very strange. um people have hated on me for wearing wigs. People hated on me for wearing blonde wigs especially, because folks were saying that like when I have a blonde wig I'm white passing, which I definitely don't think is the case. I think like to be white passing your skin has to be white. Like pretty sure that's like the fucking that's the criterion for motherfucking being white passing. But you know, when I had a blonde wig, like folks were just like, oh, you look like a white woman, and like they do the same thing to Beyonce, you know. They say that even though her skin is light, that like, you know, she's trying to be white. And I feel like in some ways, I feel like embracing European standard of beauty is one form of assimilation that black folks seemingly feel like they have to do. And I'm not going to shame somebody black for like assimilating into a culture that is fucking xenophobic and fucking racist at its core, you know? There's a reason why we don't see black hair in the media. There's a reason why we don't see black people in the media. There's a reason why we don't see blackness. And it's because it's hated, and it's because it's subtly hated. Um, in some ways, or rather, because it's hated when it's the darkest black folks. Let's be real. The reason why we don't talk about it is because they're letting all these light skinned, ambiguously motherfucking white passing folks, you know, get in, you know, and be the stand-in for, you know, black folks in general. And I feel like it's more this colorblind bullshit where they're like, oh, one day everyone's gonna be beige, and racism won't matter. And that's bullshit, because bitch, I'm beige and shit is horrible. Shit is still fucking terrible, and it's not even the most fucking horrible for me. So it's like, what the fuck, you know? Ooh, also, PS, I did want to fucking talk about um uh fucking it's fucking Tia and Tamera Mowry. They were talking, and I don't know which one married the white man, but the one that married the white man has been getting like mad hate and like mad like just racist comments like on the internet and stuff about them. And someone was saying something about, you know, calling her a sellout, saying that like back in the day a black woman used to make $300 a night with a white man, and now you're just giving away your pussy for free. And I'm not gonna lie, that's wildin'. That's fucking wildin'. I do agree. Nobody can call Lupita ugly though. That would be a fucking lie. Nobody can call Lupita ugly though. That's like, that would just be like you, like if you call Lupita ugly, like you probably have basic lines in your fucking face like a fucking Doug character. Like I can't. It's true, giggles, and the next thing it's true what you're saying. But yeah, okay. So Tamara was crying about how like her white husband and her would get mad hate and shit, and then Tia was saying how she dated a black, how she's married to a black man, and folks be saying to her, you know, you did the right thing, or they'll say, you know, you should have married a white man. Like, what were you thinking? And I'm just like, what the fuck? I was just like, exactly. That is another form of policing black women. I do agree with you. I think that like, I will say this. I think like I've dated white folks, and I know that like dating white people usually means like you're dating white people with like white family members. And I feel like literally every person I've ever dated that was white had a racist family member that was like blatantly racist that nobody fucking checked. So to be real with you, I feel like I understand when other black folks are like, why? You know what I mean? Because honestly, like I feel like there are mad other reasons why people of color don't fucks with like white partners or have white partners at all or have like white folks around them. But I feel like it's real that like honestly, having white friends has brought me around their racist white family members. And it's like literally every white person I know knows a racist who's proud about it. And that can be the thing that breaks y'all up. Not even so much that relationship, just being around their racist ass fucking environment. And I think people don't understand that. So I think when folks are like, oh, like, you know, I'm not saying shame somebody for dating a white person, but but if they're talking about it and they're shitting on the experience, I'm gonna lend my voice, because I definitely have had bad experiences dating white folks. Most recently, actually, let's clock it. You know what I mean? My ex, like, girl, his mom tried to play me like several times, and I was like saying to him, I was like, if we ever had children, like, I don't think I would want her around the children, like on some fucking Blue Ivy Rihanna shit. Like I was like, I really don't super want you know, your mom to be in my life. And he was just like, word. Like, and the thing is too, I think like um somebody wrote this thing about like living with white folks, and it was really interesting. I can't remember where I was, but I was on this forum. It was like a men's rights forum, I think, but it was like men of color talking about um why they would never date white women, like talking about how white women are like the worst, but they were also being hella racist towards black women. But I think like I was catching my keys when they were talking about white women. Like I can't lie, but the thing is, when I like it took me a long time to find the black lady shit, but when I finally found the black lady shit, it was just horrible. And they were just pretty much like loving on like Latina women and loving on um, Asian women, but we all know that they're talking about like light skin, like women that are typically like fair skin, like not thinking about like darker skinned women in any of those categories. You know what I mean? Um, but yes, Germania. Yes, his mom was going in on Facebook. Basically, from the jump, like she was just really not interested in, um, being really like just caring. But oh no, I'm sorry, it wasn't a documentary. This person like just wrote an account on this like men's rights blog. Like he was like talking shit about white women, but he was saying that when he lived with a white family in America, he was like white people and families are not really like families. He was like they're very like they're very much acquaintances, and they're very much like they're thinly veiled like as not really caring for each other. They were like saying how like they hang out as friends and shit, and talking about how and talking about um I'm fucking dead. Y'all are funny as hell. But they were basically talking about how like white folks like really just have like this very like weird relationship in their families, and how they're like really passive aggressive, and how like they hang out like friends, and like or rather treat each other like frenemies. Like they'll be like condescending to each other and shit, and they just don't really have any kind of connection. And Was talking about how um and it just made me think, because like this is exactly how like my ex's family is. Like it's literally like like they all hate each other, and it's mad obvious, but like they like get together to have these little like dinners or whatever, but like they don't talk to each other. Like we literally will all be at a fucking big ass table, but like niggas will not talk to other niggas. Like I'll be sitting there and I'll be just smiling, and I literally won't, like no one will talk to me the entire fucking dinner. I mean, if they do, it'll be about some like bullshit, like oh, there's a lot like his mom one time like deadass didn't talk to me the whole dinner, and then randomly was like, a lot of Irish coming to town, a lot of Irish. And then she was like, do you get these Irish folks coming to town? And like she's like, they're always looking for jobs at my job. And I was like, yeah, I was like, a lot of Irish folks looking for jobs at my job too. And it was true. Like there was I think like Irish folks get like a travel visa or whatever. So like the thing to do is like to come to America and like get a job and shit, and just like, go back home at some point, but just like travel the US or whatever. But like they were just hella fucking annoying. And I remember one time I went on a cruise with his family, and like dead ass like his brother fucking tried to fight somebody in the elevator just because the person like cut in front of him to go out the elevator. And it's like, did that guy really cut in front of you, or was he just trying to get the fuck out because you're a man annoying? You know what I mean? Um, it's true. It's true, Giggles and Denaxi. That's true. It's true, Giggles and Denaxi. I'm gonna read what you said. It's because white people have the luxury of having a broken familial structure. It's true, and that's the thing. All like everyone in like my ex's family, like they're okay individually. Like they don't need each other, and that's why they treat each other like shit. But it's like if I like the reason why I'm like kind of like not really close to my mom is because like I know that she needs me, and in ways I need her. But I know that like I don't feel like I'm in a space to where like she can really need me the way that like um she needs to, or and me her, like I don't think we're both in a space where we could like really be like positive to each other. But I think but but in as I was saying, in my ex's family, they're really just like they hate on each other so hard. And like honestly, like I told my ex like his brother is getting married in Mexico, and he invited me, and I was like, I would never go to Mexico to a white person's wedding. Like that just seems disrespectful to me. I was like, I don't know why these random white folks are going to fucking Mexico. It just seems kind of bootleg to me. And honestly, I was telling him, I'm like, you don't have a destination wedding and expect folks to come. Like it's kind of like bootleg, but like that's how like rich like um his brother's like fiance is. Like their family is just like, oh yeah, like it's nothing, we're just gonna fly from the East Coast randomly to a fucking Mexican resort and fucking just like have a wedding for like fucking 4 days. Like my ex was just like, I don't even want to go. And I was just like, why would you go? I'm just like, but at the same time, it's like he's obligated because like obviously this nigga is not broke. Like he could fucking like he literally could just fucking go to Mexico and go to a fucking wedding. I don't have that fucking luxury. If someone invited me to a Mexican wedding, I would think it was shade. I'd be like, bitch, you know I can't get to Mexico. Like, you know what I mean? But this nigga like he feels obligated, but it's like he really is obligated. You know what I mean? Because of his status. But I think at the same time, it's like I'm just like that is so bootleg. Exactly. Exactly. I don't. Well, it's not. I don't think it's that much. I don't think it's $15,000. I don't think it's $15,000. Um, but I think like he told me like those total was like 3,000 though, and I was like, I was just blinking because it's like my friend Samantha was talking to me and talking about how like people in poverty, how like they can't fathom numbers like that, and I was like, that's real. Like I can't even think of $3,000. Like I can't even think of it. It's just like it just sounds wild. You know, it just sounds like a wild amount of money. You know, but honestly, I can only think of $3,000 in the sum of tacos, and it just seems like a ridiculous amount of tacos. Like just like an amount you really wouldn't want unless like you were having like a bomb ass party, and you knew everybody wanted some tacos. Because I would hate to waste. No, I no agree. I'm not trying to say I'm not trying to make light of 3,000 at all. But I'm just saying like the fact that like someone would have to spend $3,000 to go to your wedding, bitch, and they're not even in your wedding. I was like, this they didn't even ask this nigga to be in it. This nigga just going to sit in a crowd in Mexico. I was like, bitch. I was like, privilege is wild. You know what I mean? But got the nerve to bitch about it. It's like fuck out of here. Like nigga, you got all this money to go to fucking Mexico, you could go. I'm dead some bots. I'm dead. I mean, like that would be a fucking trip of a lifetime. But I feel like the thing is, like, I'm the type of poor where if I ever went to South Korea, it would be because I won something. I won something. You feel me? Like, I know, like, it would be like a dream. Obviously, like I'm like I'm a broke person, so again, my dreams go only so far, y'all. Like I could obviously say like one of my dreams is to go to like Greece. Like that's one of my dreams. Like I would love to do that. But is it a dream that I've planned out? Hell fucking no. I know that I would want to go to Santorini only because I've seen pictures of it and I think it's beautiful. But I know that if I ever went there, it would be because I saved and like I could afford it or something like that, or I met somebody that saved and could afford it. But like I'm broke as fuck, so I'm not even thinking about it. But and no, and that's what I'm saying. No, and I agree with you, Giggles. I agree with you. I think that that's a lot of throwaway money for real. That's why it's just like it's not like I feel like in some ways, when I see when with what you said, about how white folks have the luxury of having broken familial structures, because it's like I'm saying, these folks like really just use each other and abuse each other, but really they're okay individually, and like they only use each other when they're using each other. Like they only care for each other when they're like doing when they're having like a business deal or something. And I remember I was telling Haley that like one time I heard my ex like talking to his friend, and his friend was just like, I'll loan you money, but like you have to pay me 11% interest. And then like my ex dead ass like loaned the money to somebody else and then had like fucking 10% interest on it or some shit. And I'm just like, what the fuck? This is what white folks do. Like this is what like white people do. Like they fucking owe each other money and they have interest on it. It's very strange to me. And then my friend Haley and I were just talking, and Haley was like, sometimes my friend Haley's like, I would let you borrow it and be like, when can you pay back? And I'm like, exactly. Like that's what you do. Like when you're broke, like you borrow money, like you know, you're not gonna ask for fucking interest. But like these are like calculating ass motherfuckers. Like they're like, oh, like you need to borrow this money. So this is what you're gonna do. You're gonna borrow this money, but you're also gonna pay back more than what you borrowed. And I'm just like, that is just like a whole nother kind of fucking fuckery. But uh mm, that's word. That's word, giggles. I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like my family was like middle class, and then like we got really poor, like because my mom like got laid off. Like, but my mom was like grinding, you know, for a long time. Like, we had everything we wanted. Like, we didn't really have too many needs. But I noticed when my mom like made a jump to buy her house, like she literally like lost her job, and then like things just got really bad, and that was when I was like 13. So like from like the time when I was like really young to like 13, I was like we were living pretty nice. But then I realized, you know, at 13, you know, my mom just kind of like her whole shit kind of got fucked up, and like from like 13 to like 17, shit was just really fucked up for me. And then like I feel like I don't know, it feels weird because it's like I feel like my life is like really disconnected in like a lot of ways. Like I feel like for 13 years, like I had like not even for 13 years, I feel like for part of my life, I feel like I had a life. I had one life. And then I had lived somewhere else and I had a different life. And I lived somewhere else and I had a different life. So like this is really like I think I've said this before, like me moving a lot is not even different for me. It's not like weird. It's like I'm not like I moved several times like over the years, like in my fucking YouTube videos, like you can tell. But like moving from place to place is really not like weird to me. And like having a different life is not weird to me. But I wish that it was. Like I wish in some ways like I could like feel like I have a hometown, like feel like I'm like somewhere where like I wanna be and like where I wanna stay. Like I feel like that's something good. Mm, I don't know. I'm feeling kind of like I want a ham sandwich though, so I think I'm probably gonna piece. But I really appreciated everybody for coming and hanging out. I did record majority of this like random ranting session. That was very cathartic that I love. Um, damn. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I have, like, some white friends that are definitely close to their family, but I feel like it also is a class thing. I feel like it really depends on classism in ways, too. I feel like my broker white friends definitely have different relationship issues, but not on the whole, not on the whole. I think, like, what I'm typically talking about are, like, cis men in white families. I feel like I should have been more clear. Um, do I want to settle somewhere? I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, I think like I love New Orleans so much. I'm like so excited to be going back, and like apparently it's getting warmer, and like my friends like want to go swimming when I get back, and like I'm kind of like crying about it cuz like it's fucking freezing like shit in Boston. It's horrible. Um but I think that I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where I want to like end up. Like I think I'm just really happy that I'm alive. Like I think I'm just really happy that like I'm alive right now, and that I get to be me, and that I get to like say what I um um but I'm excited. I'm excited to be myself and like be here and like have y'all like hang out. And thank you, Rebecca, cuz I super love talking. So I appreciate you for loving my talks. But I don't know. I don't know. Like I am coming back to Cali. Oh, can I tell y'all my like plans for my life that are coming up? That's supposed to be a fucking platinum. Let me tell you. So my plan is to go back to New Orleans. Our plan is also then to move into a nicer place than we're living in currently in March, hopefully. And then also the plan is to um this fall go to Cali to go trim weed in California. So I'm excited about that. But our plan is hopefully like Mandy's gonna come from Houston to New Orleans and like hopefully leave their car, and then we were gonna take a van. Like we're trying to like sell our van. Oh, what's up? Yes, Amanda. Ah, look at you, bitch. That's awesome, Mandy. Fucking bitch, yes. But yeah, like hopefully like it's gonna work out that like we can sell Haley's car and our car that we already have that kind of sucks, and like get a van so that we could like just have a van and shit like going to fucking Cali because that would be fucking sickening. But we were gonna go up to Colorado and shit, and like I'm excited because like I haven't been on a road trip for a minute, so um like a real road trip actually ever. So like I'm excited, and then hopefully just like be working in Cali till like December, and I feel like it should be really nice. I don't know about us driving in December through, like I feel like we'll just drive through like fucking SoCal, like to leave, and then maybe like skip Texas, like just go around it. um, but we could go to Texas. That's cool too. But also, Kat is supposed to be coming with us. I hope Kat comes too, because that'd be fucking sickening. But so far it's like four folks in the car, and I feel like four folks is just enough folks. Like I feel like four is just a perfect. Um, Rebecca, it's like really fucking wild. Like there's so many things like that, or rather I have like a lot of privileges and a lot of things like, or rather I've like, I think like one of the things like I want to sorry, one of the things I want to acknowledge or do like a critique of is like having a white partner and the status of having a white partner. um oh, we're totally going through Oklahoma, one wish. But yeah, like I want to talk about like the status of having a white partner, especially like a white cis male partner. Because I think some folks like, I think some folks, I feel like that is also a privilege in ways. But I feel like it's a privilege in ways that is kind of like I don't know, like I can't think of the name of it. I can't think of what I'm trying to say exactly, but I think it's something that like it would be worthy to analyze, especially in my case, just because I think sometimes folks are like, oh, I wish I wanted to do this, I want to go that. But I think like in some ways, like I've definitely had like my white partner be like completely an asset to me, like in terms of like being able to do things. We're in California, NorCal. Dude, I've been wanting to do a mini Marf tour. Can I tell you? I've been wanting to do a Marshmallow tour for a minute. Like, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna do a Marshmallow tour. And then I was like, then I was like, is that whack? And then my friends were like, no. And I was like, okay, cool. But I was like, oh my god, I would not even charge folks. Like, but somebody did hit me up. I wanted to give a shout out to like, uh, shit, I can't think of your name. I feel like an asshole. Fuck, I'm not gonna even talk about it because can't think of your name. But somebody was like telling me that they're like connected to some group, and they were like, oh, they're like, we would like talk about like paying you to talk, and I'm like, about what? You know what I mean? Like I have to write something down. But I've thought about being a motivational speaker. I would love to be a motivational speaker. I would love to be somebody's like hype person, like someone that like made them feel like they could do anything. Um, oh yes, Sammy Rue, what up? But yeah, like I just want folks to know that I care for y'all and I appreciate y'all for listening to me because it's like mad important to me. So thank you and take care and we'll talk soon. You know I'll be coming through. So bye. I feel like in some ways I think good hair reinforced that whatever black folks are doing to their hair is wrong. What up, Beat Boppin'? Um, I don't think you're that late. We're just talking, you know. Ooh, bitch, I'm about to get my fucking Talenti. BRB. I'm gonna need some ice cream. Actually, I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna keep talking. I'll get my ice cream later, darling. But what I wanted to talk about was like fucking, oh, what up, Rebecca? Um, but I think, I don't know. I think it is true. It is true how natural hair is demonized still, because it's like, I just think there's so many layers to like anti-blackness. It's just kind of like mind-boggling, all of the arguments that are just rooted in racism and like misogynoir, which is again misogyny directed to, or actually, excuse me, racialized misogyny geared towards black women. I think that's like another point I wanted to make is like, I was talking to a black man and I told him that black women and black queer folks that are not cis men struggle more so in our world, in our society. And he truly like just like would not agree with me on that. And he was just very much like, no, like as a black man, you have no idea what I go through and da 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 da. And I'm just like, do you realize that as a black man, like you could fucking dress up like a black woman and like garner much success, but the opposite is not true. And you could, as a black man, or rather, you as a black man have privileges that black women definitely do not have. And it's so abundantly clear, because like as it's just like interesting like seeing like the back and forth sometimes too, because it's like black women will assert something or black queer folks will assert something about black cis men, and it'll be like this thing like, oh, y'all hoes are hating, or like y'all bitches stay mad. And it's like, like I think like the thing is what it really is y'all bitches have a history of fucking trauma, and y'all bitches is mad for a reason. Like we don't ever like want to examine that shit. But it's true. It's true. People don't. People definitely shouldn't be concerning themselves with black hair. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Germania. It's so true. I also thought, like, I don't know. Has anyone seen that picture floating around of that black man brushing his children's hair? I think it's always interesting whenever like black folks, or rather like whenever there's like a monoracial parent who's like black, um, and they have a child who is like not visibly black, and I think it's interesting like how that plays out, but also how that black man responded, talking about helping his children with their hair, and talking about you know how folks how folks are being racist towards him. And I think like he definitely was just like, not trying to really process like racism at the time. I think he was more so trying to process why like a black man doing something quote unquote normal is like so like villainized. And that was what was happening. Like it was like folks just being like, how like this black man, like those are probably not even his kids, like just saying things that were like extremely racist. And like folks like talk about it like it's not racist. It's true. It's true. And that's what I said when I was saying like it's as if we live in the Matrix, because very much so like I feel like Bell Hooks's terminology talking about the world being a plantation, and like the way that folks have to survive in the plantation setting, and how house niggas still exist, and how field niggas are abundant, and how people who are gatekeepers know that there are different ways to keep folks at odds and shit. And I feel like you know I don't know, like it just like bugs me out, because it's like you read things like you read any kind of biography or words by like Asada Shakur or Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks especially, Angela Davis. Like you read anything by these women, and you think like, why are things not changing? Like you read their like, especially as my especially myself, I read these words and I get angry, because it's like how can there be such beautiful fruit on this earth that folks will not eat? Like, how is it that like people could like explain the ways in which my life is, and it can just mean nothing but mean everything to me. So I think that that's also like very interesting, but I feel like that's especially telling of like living in like white supremacy, is like being able to, you know, in some ways, like in a small way, I'm like, word, shout out to you. But in other ways, I wonder, like, with all that elevation, with all that money, like, do you turn around? Do you ask, like, how can I help? And I wonder, like, what stops us? Like, what stops us from, like, saying, like, we can help, like, we can do this, you know? I realize we all have, like, fucked up things, but it's like, is the system milking us to a point where, like, we don't have anything to give each other? And, like, that's, like, where we're at? I don't know. It just fucks me up sometimes, you know, thinking about the way that things work, and like the way that like folks like are swayed to do things, or like swayed to not do things, or like swayed to believe things about certain folks, or feel a way already when they meet someone or see someone, or just based on their experience, you know, just based on like where the fuck they're coming from. You see it all the time, and especially with reality TV. I think that's also what's interesting. It's like reality TV shows you like all these motherfuckers are fucking wildin'. You know, like everyone out here is wildin' in some way, but it shows me that like when people get on TV, they wild in a different way. Like even the brokest motherfucker, when they get on TV, they go in, like they lose their mind kinda, and they start doing things that they probably don't fucking really be doing, just to give a storyline. You know what I mean? Like not everyone is that fucking interesting. Not everyone has that much going on. And like you start to like probe and go into things. You start to feel like you know these fucking people. You start to have like real connections with these folks. I'm high as fuck. Can y'all tell? I'm just like going in. I'm just like, bah. Wowzers. What is my opinion on what white people who actually try to be aware? There's no try. I want to make that also aware. There's no try to be aware. It's like once you start to see systems of oppression, you kind of can't turn it off. You kind of see every fucked up thing, you have, you know, that little solace, you know, those little pockets of safer spaces. But eventually, you know, there must be a confrontation in terms of like why we must live this way, in terms of like small pockets of like safer spaces. Like um it's just like flustering, because it's like, you know, all the people that I love and that I care for, and all the people that I want to believe in, it's kind of like their politics are kind of bullshit. And it's kind of like, where do we go? Like how do we tell folks like, you know, on bigger levels, like not to slut shame, and not to like be fat phobic, and like not to be ableist, and like not to be fucking racist, and to like check their privileges, and like be aware of like how they move in spaces where people have less power than them, you know, because like your movements, while they may be easy for you, they crush some. So um I think like it's just like a whole like, it's like a thought process has to change within folks. And I just wonder like how does that even work? Because like every day it seems like the media just is like so rife with like trying to tell you this backwards ass story, or trying to like get you to understand the way things just are, you know? And it's sickening. I think like someone asked me, like I was trying to like lead off with this, but like someone asked me, have I been watching this shit called like Blood, Sweat, and Heels? And it's just like, who gives a fuck? Like I'm not even trying to be hating on these like folks, but I feel like this is another one of those shows, kind of like Real Housewives of Atlanta, where they get this one wildin' ass white bitch, and then they get like mad black ladies who are like trying to struggle, trying to fucking make it, and like you just see this like basic ass, drunk ass white bitch fucking do nothing and gain all the fucking rewards of also being on the show, but also for being mediocre. And it's just like, why? You know, why are we watching this show? Like, why do we give a fuck? Like, obviously, like, I'm happy that these folks are getting a check. These other folks, you know, these other black ladies, like, they're out here making it, because really, like, black folks are not meant to make it. When you see somebody black on your screen,